Close your eyes for just a moment and think back. Think back to a time when pulling into a McDonald's parking lot felt like something special, when the golden arches weren't on every highway exit and every airport terminal in the country, but were still something you looked forward to, a destination, not just a convenience. The smell hit you before you even opened the car door, frying oil and toasted bread and something sweet underneath it all. And the menu on that backlit board, it looked different than it does today. It offered things you haven't thought about in decades. Today, we're counting down the 10 forgotten McDonald's menu items from the 1970s that millions of Americans still miss, whether they realize it or not. But this story isn't really about fast food. It's about something quieter than that. It's about what happens when a company grows so large that the things which made it feel human, the small, strange, imperfect things, get quietly retired. By the time we reach the end of this list, you may find yourself asking why so much of what we loved about that era has been so thoroughly erased. And the answer to that question is not a comfortable one. Number 10. The Onion Nuggets. Before the Chicken McNugget changed fast food history, McDonald's was experimenting with a very different kind of nugget. In the mid-1970s, the Onion Nugget briefly appeared on test menus in select regions, bite-sized pieces of onion, battered and deep-fried, crisp on the outside and soft and sweet on the inside. They were sold alongside burgers as a side option, and they developed a quiet but devoted following. The concept was not entirely new. Fried onion rings had existed in diners for decades, but the nugget format made them easy to eat in a car, easy to share, easy to pop one at a time. They tasted like something you might find at a state fair. They tasted like a summer evening. McDonald's tested and retested different iterations, but the Onion Nugget never made it to the national menu. When the Chicken McNugget arrived in 1983, the onion version was quietly forgotten, but people who tried them in those test markets have never stopped talking about them. Number 9. The Hula Burger. This one goes back even further, but its legacy lingered through the 1970s as a footnote in McDonald's own mythology, the strange experiment that Ray Kroc himself championed and that almost nobody ordered. The Hula Burger was Ray Kroc's answer to the Filet-O-Fish during the Lenten season when Catholic customers avoided meat on Fridays. His idea was simple: replace the beef patty with a grilled slice of pineapple and a slice of cheese on a toasted bun. Kroc believed Americans were ready for something lighter, something different. He was wrong. The Filet-O-Fish won that particular competition decisively. But the Hula Burger continued to appear on regional menus and in promotional materials through the early 1970s, a quiet ghost of an idea that never quite died. It represents something important, a moment when McDonald's was still willing to be strange, still willing to lose. That willingness, too, would eventually fade.
Number 8. The Chopped Beefsteak Sandwich. In the mid-1970s, McDonald's made a deliberate attempt to appeal to adult diners who wanted something more substantial than a hamburger. The chopped beefsteak sandwich was their answer, a seasoned, oblong beef patty served on a hoagie-style roll with onions and a savory sauce, positioned as a heartier, more grown-up meal. The television advertising leaned into this, showing working men and women ordering it at the counter as something close to a sit-down lunch. It was thicker than a regular burger, more aggressively seasoned, and it filled a gap that McDonald's was only beginning to understand existed. It didn't last more than a few years. The operational complexity of a different roll, a different patty shape, a different preparation process made it difficult to maintain its scale as the chain grew rapidly. The lesson McDonald's took from its failure was one of simplification, but the people who ate it took away a different memory entirely. Number 7. McDonald's Apple Pie, the original deep-fried version. Now, to be precise, the apple pie itself never left the menu, but the version that existed in the 1970s and for much of the following 2 decades was fundamentally different from what you find today, and the difference is not a small one. The original McDonald's apple pie was deep-fried, sealed in a crimped pastry shell, and submerged in hot oil until the crust blistered and bubbled and turned a deep golden brown. The outside was shatteringly crisp, the inside was scalding hot, thick with cinnamon-sweetened apple filling. It came in a small cardboard sleeve, and it burned the roof of your mouth almost every single time, and you ate it anyway because it was that good. In 1992, McDonald's switched to a baked version in response to changing nutritional concerns and public pressure. The baked pie is fine, it is soft and inoffensive, and nothing like what came before. Millions of Americans over 50 will tell you without hesitation that something real was lost that day.
Number 6. The McDLT. Introduced in the early 1980s, but deeply rooted in the experimental spirit of the 1970s product development that shaped it, the McDLT was one of the most unusual packaging innovations McDonald's ever attempted. The sandwich came in a large 2-compartment styrofoam container. The hot side held the beef patty in the bottom bun, while the cool side held the lettuce, tomato, and top bun. The idea was that you assembled the burger yourself at the table, keeping the ingredients at their respective temperatures until the last possible moment. It was theatrical, it was slightly absurd, and it worked. The beef was genuinely hot, the vegetables genuinely crisp in a way that a pre-assembled burger sitting under a heat lamp simply could not replicate. The McDLT was discontinued in 1990, largely due to growing environmental concerns about the large styrofoam packaging. Some things are lost to time, some things are lost to conscience. The McDLT was the latter. This is where the story changes, because up to this point, we have been talking about menu items that were removed for reasons that seem, on the surface, to be about practicality or complexity or changing tastes. But the deeper truth, the one that begins to come into focus as we move into the top 5, is about something else entirely. It is about the steady, deliberate simplification of a menu that was once willing to take risks.
Number 5. The Egg McMuffin's original companions, the full 1970s breakfast menu. When McDonald's launched breakfast in 1971 with the Egg McMuffin, it was testing something genuinely new, the idea that a fast food restaurant could serve a morning meal. Through the 1970s, that breakfast menu was small, careful, and oddly personal. There were scrambled eggs served in a small cardboard container. There were hot cakes, thick, slightly dense, served with a pat of butter and a small cup of syrup. There were small pork sausage patties that tasted nothing like the processed rounds served today. They were coarser, saltier, with a distinct fennel and black pepper flavor that echoed homemade country sausage. The hash brown did not arrive until later. What existed before it was a side of fried potatoes, irregular pieces, seasoned simply, more like a home fry than anything engineered. That entire breakfast ecosystem felt like it had been designed by someone who had eaten in a diner. The sausage changed over time. The eggs changed. The irregular potatoes disappeared. What replaced them was more uniform, more reproducible, and considerably less memorable.
Number 4. The shake flavors that disappeared. In the 1970s, McDonald's milkshakes came in more flavors than the 3, chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry, that have dominated the menu for most of its history. Depending on the region and the year, customers could order a shake in flavors that included blueberry, orange, and most memorably, a thick, intensely flavored banana shake that showed up in certain markets and left a lasting impression on everyone who tried it. These shakes were also made differently, thicker, colder, almost impossible to drink through a straw without waiting several minutes. They were made with a soft-serve base that was closer in texture to ice cream than to the lighter, more liquid shakes that gradually replaced them. The machinery required for specialty flavors was expensive to maintain and difficult to calibrate for consistency across thousands of locations, and so the flavors narrowed. The banana disappeared. The blueberry disappeared. What remained was efficient and predictable and forgettable in all the ways that the originals were not. Number 3.
the McDonald's drive-in experience, car hops and trays. This is not a menu item exactly, but it belongs on this list because it shaped everything about what eating at McDonald's felt like in the 1970s, in ways that the food alone cannot capture. In the early years of McDonald's and through much of the 1970s in smaller towns and certain regional locations, the drive-in experience still existed. A car pulled up to a speaker, an order was placed, and a car hop sometimes brought the tray directly to the car window, hooking it over the glass the way the old drive-ins had always done. You ate in the car, the radio playing, the tray balanced on the door, the smell of French fries filling the interior. This practice faded as the drive-through window became standard, as the architecture of the restaurants changed to prioritize throughput over experience. The car hop disappeared, the tray on the window disappeared, and something about what it felt like to be a customer, something about the pace of it, the leisure of it, disappeared with them.
Number 2. The Triple Ripple Ice Cream Cone. McDonald's has always served soft-serve ice cream in some form, but in the 1970s there was a brief and beloved offering called the Triple Ripple, a cone that featured 3 flavors of soft serve swirled together, typically a rotation that included chocolate, vanilla, and a third flavor that varied by season and location. The swirling machine required to produce it was a separate piece of equipment, and the training needed to produce a properly layered, visually distinctive cone added time and inconsistency to a process that McDonald's was increasingly trying to standardize. The Triple Ripple was gone before most people had a chance to realize it was leaving. What it represented, a small, cheerful, entirely unnecessary flourish, was exactly the kind of thing that gets eliminated first when a company begins to optimize for scale above all else. The single-flavor cone that replaced it was perfectly adequate. Adequate was the point. Number 1. The original French fry. Nothing on this list carries more weight than this. The McDonald's French fry of the 1970s, the one that built the company's reputation more than any burger, more than any mascot, more than any piece of marketing, was a fundamentally different product than what is served today. The original fry was cooked in a blend of beef tallow and cottonseed oil. The beef tallow, rendered beef fat, gave the fry a depth of flavor that was rich, slightly savory, and impossible to replicate with vegetable oil. The exterior crisped in a way that plant-based oils simply do not produce. The interior was soft and almost creamy. These fries did not need salt to make them interesting. They were interesting on their own. In 1990, under significant public pressure regarding saturated fat and cardiovascular health, McDonald's switched to a pure vegetable oil blend. The company added a synthetic beef flavoring to the oil to approximate some of what was lost, but food scientists and devoted customers alike agreed it was not the same. It has never been the same. The most beloved item in the history of American fast food was quietly, permanently changed, and most people didn't find out until years later. Here is the truth that this list has been building toward. Every item on this countdown was removed for a reason that made sense inside a boardroom. Operational complexity, liability, public health concerns, environmental pressure. The relentless demand for consistency across tens of thousands of locations in dozens of countries. These are not villainous reasons. They are the entirely predictable consequences of a company that grew beyond the scale at which personality is sustainable. The 1970s McDonald's was imperfect and inconsistent and occasionally bizarre. It was also, in ways that are very difficult to quantify, deeply human. What replaced it is efficient and clean and available everywhere on Earth, and you can have it anytime you want. But there are people, maybe you are one of them, who would give a great deal to sit in a parking lot one more time with a bag of those original fries, still hot, still crackling, the radio on low, the evening light coming in sideways through the windshield. That feeling was real. The question worth sitting with is whether we understood what we had while we still had it.